Well, good afternoon, good morning. We're just going to get ready now to our futures session, and we're going to start by having a quick rundown of the fundamentals. The outlook today is quite negative. If you take a look at, we'll look at the bond market in a minute, but if you just take a look at equity markets, you can see they're heavily down on the session. US equity futures just finding a little bit of a dip, but they're moving lower in line with Europe, and you can see this VIX pushing higher, so sentiment is pretty negative out there. You can see gold, silver now finding some dip buyers, WTI lower on OPEC Plus, threatening to increase output in oil markets, so that's pressurizing oil to the downside. Dollar remains pressured over the last few days, just finding a little bit of a support region now at 99.50. All the majors are going to be lifted by that weakness in the dollar. Now, what I want to really share with you today is what's going on in the bond market and why it matters. Yesterday, there was an auction for the US 20-year bond market, and it was weak. There was weak demand out there. Now, what happens is when investors are concerned about the path of inflation, and that's particularly what's going on at the moment in the bond market. You see around the world, you see yields are pushing up. And what investors are concerned about is that inflation is still pretty resilient. We've seen Canadian CPI out earlier this week, showing that inflation is stickier, it's firmer than markets are expecting. And that means that investors are just concerned that interest rates, if they're going to be cut, with a number of central banks moving towards cutting interest rates, and there's sort of fiscal stimulus coming up, particularly like out of the US, but at the same time, inflation is still problematic. It just means that central banks are storing up the problem for later on, and it's going to be a worse problem than it currently is now. And that's why yields are moving up, because they're anticipating that the market will have to end up, hiking interest rates even further in the future. And they seem to be ignoring that narrative. And if you look at the 30-year yield here in the US, look at the way it's reaching so much higher. And you can see what's happening is further out down the yield curve, we're seeing the yield curve rise. And if central banks don't sort of slow down that path of interest rate cutting, what it's saying is that there's an inflationary force that's coming. Bond traders don't like it, so they're not prepared to buy bonds at the present yield, hence that weak demand for the 20-year US Treasury. And there's also a wider concern about the general US debt issue, with Moody's downgrading their credit rating for the US from AAA to AA1 in the middle of May as well. That doesn't help things. So this bond market reaction, you can see it across the world, yields sort of generally moving up, and you can see that high inflation print for Canada. Canadian 10-year bond yields surging high. You can see inflation is problematic in Japan. That continues to move higher. You can see the US 10-year bond yields continue to move higher. Now that matters, and that's what's going to be weighing on investors' minds, and it's a concern. So heading into the session, we're just going to be aware that we've got the S&P global PMI print coming up, and if that comes in below markets expectations, we could see an acceleration in more downside in the E-mini. So it is a sort of, there's a negative bias out there. Now, in terms of what we're going to be looking for, we will be looking for something that clearly gives us an indication that markets are moving in one direction. You can see we've had a very clear breakdown before the US Open, breaking down out of this value area, point of control, value area low. We've now moved up to that value area. This is now a key shorting area. Okay, so this breakdown, this makes for a very key shorting area. And we don't want to be going long unless we can take out this 5670 region and have a clear rejection and then look like we're moving higher. For now, we want to trade short from this area. This is a great area for potential shorts. looking for a move back down lower. If we go underneath these lows of the day, we're looking for further downside, and we wouldn't consider longs again until maybe we get down to the S2 5780, 5760 region. We could look at potential dip buying there. Otherwise, what we're looking for is selling from this area. We don't want to go long unless we can clearly break out and then pull back and get some support around this value area high. Otherwise, shorts would be preferred with this very clear breakdown structure that we've seen as we head into the start of the session. So I've just marked this on my charts here. This is the shorting area that I'm looking for. You can see here in the 5-minute chart, that's sort of where we're heading up to. Price continues to move lower, but if we can move up to this kind of region, anywhere up here, the standard deviation, and we start to see, on balance volume moving lower, cumulative delta moving lower, then we're looking to gain exposure with a short trade outlook. Okay, we're trying to break into this value area, but we're not able to at the moment. So no buying until this level is reclaimed. So we want a clear breakthrough and push, shorting areas where we currently are. Market sort of flattish, but if we start to see this breaking lower, we can look at shorts. You can see the rhythm sharply down and then sharply higher. The overall delta is negative on the session, and you can see sellers trapping all those buyers here. So we're in a clear sell area. Delta is negative. Important areas to be aware of are the areas I've marked here. Where is it? Sorry. It's the areas I've marked here on this tick chart. This is a very clear area where we want to see sellers coming in. We want to see the delta start moving lower. And if we start to see that and sellers coming in, buyers getting trapped, that wouldn't be unreasonable for a little bit of further downside. So we'll be waiting to see what we get. At the moment, we've still got this positive momentum, delta higher, on balance volume higher, and price still trekking higher. We need to see some kind of evidence that this is turning around. You can see on the 5-minute chart, beginning to get a bit of tailing action up here, but this is where we're looking for potentially shorting. And you can see here, you've got that volume profile just developing here. So breaking into that area, that's what we're going to be seeing. So I'll keep the tick chart here. This is what we're looking for. I've identified the shorting area, but we need to see some confirmation of that. If we look at that on the 5-minute chart, right, we want to start to see some kind of slowing down. And when we see some kind of slowing down, we could turn over to the tick chart and try to refine our entries. The only other thing to say is this PMI print we've got coming up at 2:45 will be important. I'm just going to check the calendar to see if there's anything else for us to look at. Got 5.7 2-year note announcement at 4. ECB's Elderson at 4:40, Feds Williams at 7. That's outside of our session. So it's the S&P Global is the thing. Bank of England's Pill should have already spoken. Yeah, so we're just waiting for this PMI print at 2:45 is the main thing. Hey Anthony, good to see you. Okay, let's have a look here. Interesting here. Okay, on balance, we're in this shorting area. I think we'll be aware of is that VWAP. We can see here, look, there's a bit of movement now, can't we? We can see that. And let's say we just want to get something a little bit sort of, surer. So we'll look, okay, well, here's 700 ticks, right? You got delta moving lower. And you've got the on-balance volume moving lower, clearly. Okay, so that's good. We've got 700 ticks. So this is when there's 700 different orders. And now here we've got some buyers trying to come in, right? So great. So let's see against the VWAP. So say you get those buyers trapped. Could that be a good shorting opportunity? You see? And you look on the 5 minute, say, okay, sellers trapping those buyers, but are they going to get trapped? Are they not? Let's have a look. See, this is with the battle. So sellers coming in, right? Sellers trapping those. So let's see, do we get anything? Okay. Delta moving lower. Cumulative delta moving lower. Price moving lower. Right, everything's moving in the right direction. So maybe you want to say, okay, well, is there anything there on the 233? You know, let's have a little look. Let's get a little bit more. Okay, there you go. So there you can say, okay, we'll sell that at market because you've got sellers here. You've got sellers who trap those buyers here, here, and here. Right, and your stop can be quite tight. Right, so we drop down to 233 orders. Now, it wasn't there on the 700, so the risk is you get faked out, okay? But you're saying, okay, well, the delta's moving lower, the on-balance volume's moving lower, so I want to see if this can be a turnaround zone. Okay, so your stop is tight, it's 2 and a bit points. You want to see, okay, are we going to reject that? Are we going to keep moving lower? What are we going to do? And you see the signal wasn't there on the 700 tick chart, but it was there on the 233 tick chart. You've got the first evidence, right, of some buyers getting trapped. Okay. So here we go, buyers trapped. On balance volume is sort of flattening now. All right, cumulative delta still pointing lower, but it's trying to tick up. So you've got a little attempt now. Can buyers come back? Are these last minute buyers? Right, are they going to try and take the VWAP higher, or are they going to move it lower? Let's see. Let's see. We're in this shorting area, so that makes sense. Okay, you got sellers, and now sellers have trapped those buyers again. So, okay, there's a bit more confirmation on the 233 tick chart. So more orders are coming and trap those buyers. Okay, can you get a bit more? Have a look at it for context. What's going on in the 1 minute? Okay, you can see in the 1 minute here. Okay, you can see an attempt of sellers to take it lower. Okay. Now you see, okay. Delta moving lower. On balance volume moving lower. Okay, you can see both of them moving lower. It's that 233 tick chart. Okay, still moving lower. Okay. Okay, you see both pointing lower. Tick chart pointing lower, on balance volume pointing lower. Okay. Delta moving negative and growing. Okay, we're in this shorting area. So that's the 233. Right. And now let's look, okay. Let's go up here to 700. Have we got anything here in the 700? What's going on? Okay, you can see here on the 700, buyers got trapped here. All right, so you might think, okay, well, I'll trail my stop now underneath the 700. Do you see? Okay, delta's moving lower. There were 700 contracts, they got stuck there, they got trapped. All right, let's see. We got more downside to come. Let's have a look. So delta moving lower, on balance volume moving lower. The key thing to realize, Ryan, with the tick chart, is that it's not number of contracts. That's the mistake you mustn't do, that you will do naturally. You think, okay, 700 ticks, oh, that's 700 contracts. It's not, it's 700 orders. So that could be 700 people, each with one contract, or it could be 700 people, 10 have got 100 contracts, 5 have got 1,000 contracts. Yeah. So go down to, now here I am in the tick chart, 233. Let's see what we got. Okay, so I might say, well, look, on the tick chart here, you might think, well, I'll take this because I've got some buyers here trapping those sellers. And you can start to see the on-balance volume moving sideways and the cumulative delta moving sideways. You might think, okay, that's the first sign, Ryan, that it's turning back round. So we had 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 trades. Basically 1, 2 winners and 2 really sort of break-even trades. So very nice. We were looking to short the market from the
What's the name of the app you want to launch?
Just looking to short from the open, and we identified the shorting area at the very start of the session. We shorted before the session, we shorted on the open, just seeing buyers trapped, moved down to the standard deviation, moved away down to the lows until we saw buyers sort of trapping sellers. Then as price moved up into this green area, we were not going to buy until that level was reclaimed, and that proved to be absolutely the right move. We moved up into that area, couldn't reclaim it, and then we were looking to short again and took 3 shorts, but a bit sort of quick to move to break even. See cumulative delta moving lower, on moving lower, so right kind of direction. Then would have had a final shorting opportunity that I just left on the table, with buyers getting trapped here as we broke out to these lows. All right, folks, that is all for now. Take care and look forward to seeing you tomorrow.